Hello, welcome to the KNOW program, Chronic Illness and Addictions. This is video 2 of 2. We're now going to start getting to slightly more interesting and at the same time more difficult territory as we move away from the 5 health pillars. And as we go on to this workshop, the next workshop, and the workshop after that, we're going to get into a territory that is what I'd call moderately interesting, but at the same time exciting. And then the workshops that follow thereafter are going to be spectacularly interesting and exciting. But now that we're already getting into this territory where things start to move and happen, I think you'll find it more enjoyable. So we're going to be talking about addictions, the effects of addictions, how they in many cases, if not most cases, lead to chronic illness and premature aging and premature death, various types and causes of addictions, and what about reversing addictions? How do we do that? The effects of addictions, I think, are well known to most, and overeating causing overweightedness and obesity, different chronic illnesses and chronic pain conditions, family and relationship destruction, especially when illegal substances are being abused, and premature death. Let's just quickly touch back upon the hunger, food, satiety cycle that we mentioned in the nutrition workshop. Understanding the origin of the HFS cycle is vital in order to start to address it in the action section of this workshop, plus also understanding the principle of tolerance. So as a baby, when a baby is hungry, the baby needs food into the stomach, but of course the baby must stop eating. Otherwise it will overeat. So the way in which the body achieves that is the stomach and the stomach stretches with food. There's also an association with the smell, and then later on the visualization of food. But the whole entire physiological process around the hunger, food, satiety cycle. And that is now to stop the feeling of hunger and to give the baby a feeling of comfort and well-being, having now eaten. This cycle very quickly becomes hijacked when other sources of discomfort are around, and in many cases that feeling of comfort eating that a baby may enjoy can then become an addictive pattern in some people as they grow, and comfort eating can become a real problem as they get older into adolescence and into adulthood. But the HFS cycle is only the beginning of how things can go wrong from an addictive perspective. The brain has these chemicals that lead to a feeling of feeling good as a reward for certain activities, like eating in this case. And it is unfortunately quite easy for the individual to get used to the feeling good from the activity or the drug or the substance or the eating. But because of tolerance, which is a phenomenon that occurs at the receptor level in the brain, more of the food or more of the substances that are causing the feeling of feeling good are going to be required, or the activity that is releasing those substances is going to be required. Because of tolerance, more and more of that activity or action or substance is going to be required to lead to the same degree of comfort as before. So tolerance promotes overeating, promotes over ingesting of certain substances or drugs, or the abuse of certain actions in order to feel good. And that tolerance then is one of the main reasons why addictions are so destructive, because more and more is required to get the same effect as before. Now, when we talk about addiction, and before we talk about whether you might be addicted, remember that the HFS cycle and other associated patterns of feeling good, whether it's taking substances or doing certain activities that lead to the release of those substances, they are going to be promoted by the fact that certain triggers are making the individual feel less comfortable, and the individual is now seeking comfort. Whether it started off with the food and then it became something else, it doesn't matter. But those patterns of feeling uncomfortable and seeking comfort, that leads to these cycles. cycles of I'm hungry, I eat, I feel better, I feel comfortable. But it's not just about hunger, it's now other stressful scenarios that lead to either the comfort eating or the abuse of certain substances that make an individual feel good, or certain activities that will release certain chemicals that make an individual feel good. So those chemicals and the tolerance around those chemicals will mean that more food or more substance or more activity leading to the substance is now required, is the actual problem. So you have discomfort leading to seeking that chemical in the brain, feeling better. Discomfort, seeking the chemical in the brain, feeling better. So you have these cycles, but they are often triggered by stressful situations that are only stressful by the fact, or due to the fact that our ego and our personality recognizes them as potential problems. So we feel stressed about certain things. And those stressful scenarios are going to then cause us to seek the habit or the addiction to make us feel better. So those stressful triggers need to be addressed, because most of the time, those stressful triggers are brought about by the personality or the ego's response to a situation that triggers a memory of something that happened that was not good, or that made the individual feel uncomfortable, but now it's projecting those situations into the future as possibilities, and it now seeks the comfort of the substance in order to feel good. So you have these cycles of stress and anxiety and even depression, releasing certain of these automatic triggers, and these triggers are going to then cause a response, and the response is then going to lead to a feeling of I want to feel better, and that feeling better will come from either food or from cigarettes or from alcohol or from other substances. So these cycles are going to be formed, as I said, in childhood, adolescence, and into adulthood, and they're going to be reinforced due to tolerance. And the one needs to address the stressful triggers and what's causing the triggers, that all comes in as well. So are you addicted? Know this. Most people have some degree of coping mechanisms or habits that could be called mild addictions, but they are at this stage probably just called habits by yourself, which might not be impacting on your health yet, but they could become overwhelming and lead to other more severe addictions. So you've got to be aware of those and check on yourself regularly and be 100% honest about your behavior. So addictions that we all know and that we all consider to be addictions that are problematic include things like alcohol abuse, and then illegal drugs such as cannabis abuse, opioid abuse, cocaine, amphetamines, and prescription drug abuse, as well as chronic overeating. Those are all commonly known as the addictions, but other addictions that are then sometimes not recognized as addictions, such as caffeine abuse, energy drink abuse, and then overworking, over-exercise. We will know about excessive TV and video game obsession, but social media and excessive social media interaction and the comfort that comes with having our posts liked, for instance, and that type of excessive interaction in order to feel good is now becoming a new type of addiction. Compulsive shopping, gambling, adrenaline and thrill seeking, random sexual interaction, porn, spiritual and religious obsessions. This is not a complete list, but these are just things that you must look at and look at yourself and see whether there are certain patterns daily in your life that you need to look at carefully. So when we look at the causes of addiction, the childhood HFS cycle that I explained starts it off, and then it can go on to other types of substances and activities that cause the release of certain substances. And then stress triggering, and then mental patterns that are going to cause the overstress, the overstimulation of those stress triggers. And these mental patterns include things like self-identification with the mind, or continuous mind chatter and negative thinking. And all of those need to be addressed. So we need to address the actual cycles and how they are priming you to become addicted by looking at the triggers and the responses. We need to look at the various mental patterns and sorting those out. And then the unconsciously held beliefs that are there and form part of our ego and our personality around not feeling good enough and being separate and so on, that lead to some of these mental patterns and negative mental patterns that are causing the stress triggers, also require addressing. So this is a stepwise, and you know, you can quite easily see how we start off by addressing the addictive cycles, the stress triggers, the mental patterns, and then the belief systems. All of these need to be sorted. Now, it is possible to permanently reverse addictions, and the answer is a definite yes. You have to identify your addictions to start off with, and you have to just have a basic understanding of the underlying causes of your addictions, know that it's not your fault. It is a human way of being, that we become so easily addicted in order to cope with these emotional triggers. But it is possible to reverse these addictions permanently, and especially when addressing anxiety and depression as well. And what you need to know is a brief understanding of the causes of addictions and how they bring about such negative side effects in our lives, chronic illnesses, as well as premature aging and death, how you should check yourself carefully and regularly, and then how to go on to and reverse the addictive pattern. So this will motivate you to take action. So when we go on to the action part of the addiction workshop, you will now need to go and check yourself for addictions, and then, if required, how to go about reversing those addictions permanently. And with that said, let's keep going.